All right. Saturday, I went live because I was pissed off at South Africa with all the lies and no one's catching on to it. I've done a little viewing through YouTube and caught a couple little shows here I want to show you that express the lies coming out of South Africa and the BS that guy is sending and trying to send out through the world. And I just want people to be aware and don't just listen to the news and pretend that they're real and they know what they're talking about. And this also goes out to everyone on YouTube that thinks that the GDP of South Africa is something. I'm speaking to a YouTuber who owns a company that sells silver and gold to people, who's a good friend of people I know. And he started his own channel here recently. I'm not giving names, but South Africa's GDP is crap. And I've also got evidence of that. And I've said that all along, but some people on YouTube think that the GDP of South Africa is relevant. And here's the relevancy.
It seems that Cyril Ramaphosa's feelings are hurt over Donald Trump's diplomatic approach. Now, that's unfortunate, especially given his umbrage is misdirected.
Hey,
President Cyril Ramaphosa says he is disappointed by U.S. President Donald Trump's continued disregard for the use of diplomatic channels. Disregard for diplomatic channels.
Sheckman's point of view of Africa having a good GDP.
Some basic diplomatic courtesies is rather disappointing. First, it's not unreasonable to expect that a country that you have established diplomatic, political, trade, and cultural ties with will at the very least engage over issues of concern before reaching ill-informed conclusions and decisions, said spokesman for the president, Vincent Magwenya. No, it's not unreasonable to engage over issues of concern.
You guys
100%. Well stated. So let's look at recent history, shall we?
With these.
Did Ramaphosa approach the United States diplomatically before he lied to the world with his vaccine apartheid narrative over the COVID jabs? No. I never mentioned that South Africa refused to participate in the development of the jabs with its own pharmaceutical industry and then whined to the world that the West is racist. Nope. Our embassy in Hatfield never got a phone call prior to the vaccine apartheid lie. December 6, 2022, the sanctioned Russian cargo ship Lady R docked at Simonstown Naval Base in the Western Cape Province. Not only did South Africa not inform the embassy in Pretoria of this provocative act, but it also stonewalled discreet, polite diplomatic overtures for more than 5 months, ignoring American requests about the ship and what it was doing there.
Oh, sweet.
On May 11th, 2023, Ambassador Ruben Brigady publicly announced South Africa was supplying arms to Russia with the Lady R. Now, this only came after the U.S. government was exasperated at Pretoria's disrespectful disregard for diplomatic norms and rebuffing Washington's request to discuss the matter privately.
Yeah, you got that right, Chad.
Reportedly signed the Expropriation Without Compensation Act on December 20th of 2024.
Oh, but you guys are going to love this second.
What we can't confirm with certainty is that on January 23rd, 2025, hours after speaking to President Trump on the telephone to congratulate him on being sworn in, Ramaphosa made a show of signing the act for the cameras in Davos. Now, the ANC and Ramaphosa are painfully aware of the U.S. commitment to property rights. Yet, given the opportunity to inform and or warn Trump in the earlier phone call, Cyril chose not to mention he would be signing it in Davos, knowing full well that the act clearly violates the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act requirement to respect private property rights. Now, perhaps Ramaphosa considers EWC simply an internal matter, even though favored duty-free trade status under AGOA for South Africa is an issue affecting Washington. If so, he should not take offense when President Trump does not bother to inform the ANC over internal domestic matters like turning off foreign aid or agreeing to accept refugees into America. These are
this gentleman here. He's already got a YouTube show. He doesn't have a strike, so I can present his information and narrate over. We can have discussions on it without me getting a strike. Because if I presented the information and I had the small channel that I have, you wouldn't be seeing it right now. They would have already shut me down.
Domestic issues, not the ANC's business, at least by Ramaphosa's logic, that is. And second, dispatching a formal notification of these decisions ahead of their announcement would have been a courteous thing to do. 100%. A formal notification that you were hosting a sanctioned Russian cargo ship, one of your naval exercise with Chinese communists and sanctioned Russians, or enacting legalized land theft would have been the courteous thing to do, and we would have appreciated that. He said Trump had done this despite Ramaphosa stating that he was ready to engage with the U.S. Well, Pretoria likes to talk a lot, except when it comes to reciprocity, treating our diplomats like unwanted guests, ignoring their requests, and not informing the United States through diplomatic channels on key issues, but then whining that we didn't do it here. South Africa has always had differing viewpoints with the U.S. over certain issues, like we do with other trade and political partners. However, we have never had such an escalation of diplomatic tensions that are mainly escalating from one side of the relationship, said Mangwenya. Talk
Jeff,
about cognitive dissonance.
If you want, bro, you just keep talking, say what you want here, bro, because this is open chat. People are allowed to express their opinions as long as they're not too outlandish. And like I said, I've been going against Andy Schekman's telling me GDP of Africa is what's going to help BRICS. And you're fixing to find out from this one video that Africa doesn't have a GDP for shit. That's why I've been doing programs and shows on West Africa, because those West African Sahel nations are fixing to take over the GDP of Africa. And there's a lot of things are going to be happening that people aren't telling you about, but this guy's telling you.
It's one side, well, he's spot on there. And the one side where provocation comes from is Pretoria. From the 75% poultry tariffs to the Lady R to the illegitimate International Court of Justice genocide case against the close American ally Israel, when the ANC stood silent over Myanmar, Sudan, China, and Rwanda's genocides. From the ANC's insulting treatment of America's friend Taiwan, demanding they close their diplomatic mission and move to Johannesburg as a trade office, to enacting legalized land theft. The affronts are too numerous to list in detail,
Land theft.
but siding with Chinese communists, Russian autocrats, Cuban communists, and Iranian mullahs against America's interest eventually comes with a price tag. Specifically, no more gravy train or free handouts to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars annually. The ANC and Ramaphosa had better learn to stop insulting and biting the hand that feeds them. Ramaphosa has already cost South Africans $500 million a year in aid. That's 10 billion rand. Soon he will cost another $430 million in annual mineral sales and termination from preferential trade status.
This is good right here.
Go.
Listen to this, guys.
Just to give an example of the provocations from Pretoria, just over the past 4 days, Ramaphosa and the ANC have, on Thursday, attacked America in the State of the Nation address with brazen, unwarranted threats. We will not be bullied. You think Trump didn't hear that? You weren't being bullied. You want to be bullied? Pay attention. Watch this space. Friday, they joined 83 other countries in a protest of President Trump sanctioning the rogue International Criminal Court, of which the United States is not a participant. On Saturday, they launched a disinformation campaign designed to mislead public opinion.
That's the one I
It is of great concern that the foundational premise of this order lacks factual accuracy and fails to recognize
something very important he just said there, guys. He said Saturday, the country of South Africa launched a disinformation program. If you go to my live streams, Saturday is the day I hopped on them for that exact reason. Just to let you know how on top of the information I am.
South Africa's profound and painful history of colonialism and apartheid. Fails to recognize the history of colonialism and apartheid. Such blatant liars. USA gave you $8.1 billion for HIV/AIDS alone. Never mind the hundreds of billions more buying South African goods, and granted you duty-free access without asking for reciprocity for our goods. The Bush, Obama, Trump.
Those words right there. He used another word he could use is tariff. Okay. Duty, tax. It falls under the taxes and tariffs. And if you heard what he just said, let's go back here and hear what he says here.
Alone. Never mind the hundreds of billions more buying South African goods, and granted you duty-free access without
granted duty-free. That's tariff-free.
Asking for reciprocity for our goods.
Without us tariffing or reciprocity of our goods. So in other words, they've been tariffing us and taxing us, and we have not been tariffing and taxing them. That is another reason why I say tariffs are good this time, because we are tired. You guys obviously know most Americans don't, they're stupid, but trust me, they're tired of extra taxes. You want to drop taxes, start tariffing these people back. And what happens is that however many $400 billion they're fixing to lose because of we're going to tariff them back. That's called fair and free trade. You tariff me, I tariff you. South Africa's fixing to crumble, and they're going to bring BRICS down with them.
The Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden regimes look the other way as you engage in revenge politics with over 140 racial discrimination policies. You destroyed state-owned enterprises, enriched your patronage pals, and impoverished 3 times as many Black South Africans as did the National Party. Well done. Wow, if your goal is to make Black people poor, you have 300% Black people compared to the National Party. Far from not recognizing the past, the United States has over-generously looked the other way over shameful contemporary conduct, granting the ANC wide latitude to chart its course. On Sunday, the ANC lied to the media about the diplomatic relationship. If you want to understand why the ANC has cost South Africa cordial relations with Washington and billions in future aid, look no further than this insulting paragraph. It is ironic that the executive order makes provision for refugee status in the U.S. for a group in South Africa that remains among the most economically privileged, while vulnerable people in the U.S. and from other parts of the world are being deported and denied asylum despite real hardship.
Okay, what this South African guy was talking about was the flood of illegal immigration. He's calling it refugees. Wrong.
Vulnerable people are being deported, denied asylum. The only people being deported in the United States are criminals. It is not ironic to be lectured by a government full of xenophobes. The South African government and political parties call for and also deport criminal alien invaders who have violated their sovereignty. If Ronnie Lamola actually believes lecturing the U.S. for deporting criminals when Home Affairs does the same thing to illegal Zimbabweans, he's not only delusional, but he's also pretty dim. Pretoria is entitled to its sovereignty, but Lamola insults America for asserting its own. Do they honestly expect good things to come their way, given how disrespectful Pretoria is to Washington? It seems Minister of Sports, Arts, and Culture, Gate McKenzie, feels that way. It's our second biggest trading partner. Where I think America is wrong is that they believe this nonsense and they've used improper channels. That's not how you speak to another president. Where Gate McKenzie is wrong is falling for the propaganda the ANC media are spreading. The ANC has consistently harmed U.S. national security interest. And as far as channels, it was Elon Musk who was contacted by Cyril Ramaphosa. Elon Musk is not a cabinet minister. He's not the vice president. He's not a member of Congress. He's none of that. You didn't go through our embassy. You went to Elon Musk. Talk about improper diplomatic channels. Seriously?
Hey, what's up? This is Loud Luxury.
Check out our new song Crash on YouTube and YouTube Shorts. Your one.
Hello, Kettle. This is Pod. You're black. Gayton can also not explain away over 140 racially exclusive laws, forcing people to hand over hard-earned equity based on skin pigmentation, senior court judges demanding that only black lawyers appear before them in court, and so many more oppressive racist.
Hold on a second. You just said their judges demand that only black lawyers appear before them. What do you think that does for the blacks, or excuse me, the Africans, South Africans born there, lived there, went to school there, and they're not black? Isn't that racism? Well, yes, it is.
Racist actions. Gayton cannot see past his own personal experience and worldview, and that's unfortunate. A president shouldn't be reading on the internet what you think of their dissatisfaction. But the biggest thing America did wrong was to believe this saying, white people are under siege. That is not true. Under siege? Those are your words, Gayton. Trump never said that. In his executive order, Trump said countless government policies designed to dismantle equal opportunity in employment, education, and business, and hateful rhetoric and government actions. Nothing about under siege. That's an interpretation on your part, not a statement of fact by Donald Trump. Trump reopened the U.S. refugee admissions program, previously frozen on January 20th, for Afrikaners in South Africa who are victims of unjust racial discrimination. Now, if Gate McKenzie wants to claim there's not a single person in all of South Africa who falls into this category of being racially discriminated against because they're an Afrikaner, he's either disconnected from reality or he's being dishonest. Unfortunately, Minister McKenzie also has outdated information about South Africa's value to the world in mineral production.
Well, this is a
He
good
said,
one.
we're number one when
This
it
is
comes
real
to
good.
chrome. We're number one when it comes to platinum. We're number one when it comes to gold. Coal, I think we're number 3. Iron ore.
See, now this is where Andy Scheckman says they've got such a great GDP. And I've been telling people South Africa does not have a great GDP. Those are lies on paper. And this guy's fixing to break it on down for you.
I think we're number 1. We are a wealthy country, but it doesn't shiver down to the people. And this is a time that we as the GNU cannot miss this bus. Well, none of that has anything to do with the relationship with the U.S. It's not germane. What's your point here? Yes, South Africa is a top chrome producer, but the United States imports just $32 million annually. It's not a significant factor in a $30 trillion economy. Chrome is not as important as it once was. South Africa does matter in platinum production, but it's a fungible commodity sold on global markets where third parties will happily provide it to buyers. South Africa is no longer a major player in gold production. This is a myth. South Africans think that they matter in gold production. South Africa comes in only 9th globally in 2024, fluctuating.
You see that? How could they be the world, Africa's leader in gold production? I bet number 12 and 13 are Mali and Burkina Faso. And if you put 12 and 13 together, they'll come up here and go above Mexico, which means that if the Sahel nations, for which I've been doing videos on for the past year and a half or so, if they actually coordinate together and become an economic powerhouse between those three countries, they will pass all of Africa's GDPs, putting South Africa probably down to number 13 or 14 in gold production. So the charts, and this is why I don't like charts. Charts aren't going to show this, because the charts are showing that South Africa is the largest gold producer. Independently as a country, yeah, right now that one independent country produces more. But if two or three countries, Africa, for which they're countries, I believe, if two or three of them get together in say West Africa and combine their gold production, I believe Mali is the seventh. Well, no, they produce 7% of the world's gold, and I think Burkina Faso produces like 6% or 5%, and then Niger produces like 3 or 4%. You put all this together, it damns South Africa. And I actually did a video about a year and a half ago. South Africa has actually been losing money on their gold because of the corruption. I'm just so elated that they are finally getting caught.
Waiting between 6th and 10th place over the
so
past
hard.
decade, with barely 1/4 of China's production. South Africa is also not a top coal producer either. It produces only 3% of global coal output, a figure boosted by climate zealots destroying the U.S. coal industry and reducing our production.
Look at
But
that.
we're still
China,
fourth
number one.
largest in the world, nonetheless.
Hold on.
So while this subject is interesting, it's largely irrelevant to the conversation about
Here, let's see where we're at. Right there. Over half of the world's coal supply is by China. Okay, all of that right there is what we call carbon tax. Unfortunately, China doesn't tax carbon. This 6.6%, add that 6.6% to that 51%, it comes up to 51.9. We'll just call it 52. Okay, so that's like 58%. So this one country here called the United States is paying for 58% of the carbon tax of the world, because these guys right here produce so much. And this year they're going to be building 300 more coal-fired powered plant from the coal. So as long as we keep getting taxed for global warming, those people are going to be rich as hell because we're paying for them to have so much money.
nonetheless. So while this subject is interesting, it's largely irrelevant to the conversation about U.S.-South African diplomatic relations. Now, I strongly suspect McKenzie is simply getting bad information. In the past, when I've seen that he's fully informed, he tends to stand up for what is right, moral, and just. His comments above are based on incomplete information. At least that's my assessment. I don't think he's intentionally saying these things. I think he's just been misled. The ANC, legacy South African media, and social media trolls may think they are winning because they have successfully hoodwinked millions of South Africans, black, white, and brown. I mean, the comments that I hear on my program, oh, this is for farmers. There's no mention of farmers in the executive order. Oh, this is only for this group of people. No, it's only for this, only for that. Oh, they'll give us free land. They'll pay for our flights, and I want to go today. I've called the embassy for 2 days. It's the weekend. They're closed. I mean, the people have been hoodwinked by the media and by radio in South Africa, misleading people about this is, well, I want asylum. It's not asylum. It's a refugee program. Well, I have skills. It doesn't matter. Skills don't matter for asylum seeking. It's about being persecuted. Well, you can only go if you've actually been, raped or murdered, or I can't go if you've been murdered, but when you've been a victim of it. No, the mere fear of it, the mere fear of persecution can be sufficient to qualify for refugee status. Ask 160,000 Afghans. As I said, the ANC, legacy South African media, and social media trolls may think they're winning because they've successfully hoodwinked millions of South Africans. But the intentional disrespect towards the United States and Donald Trump are foolish. If anyone ever learned anything about Trump, it is do not cross him. He's kind and generous until you slight him. Frankly, given the ANC's behavior and the media's yellow journalism in South Africa since Trump's February 2nd tweet, it's amazing South Africa is still a member of the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act and has not yet been sanctioned. Amazing indeed. And what say you, South Africa? Cheers.
How about that, huh? Now, here's another thing that I wanted to show you. It just happened. I mean, this executive order that Trump signed wasn't, I think it was on Friday. All this shit broke loose on Saturday. And now we have Biz News. Yes, please. 17,000 Saffers, those South Africans, want Trump's olive branch. and just over the weekend. And South Africa says there's no people there that are being discriminated against. And yet 17,000 in 2 days say they want to leave South Africa because they're being discriminated against.
I am Linda van Tilburg for Biz News. US President Donald Trump has issued an executive order to halt financial aid to South Africa, following through on a threat he made earlier. Trump stated that the decision was in response to South Africa's new land expropriation law. Additionally, he mentioned that Afrikaners experiencing racism could seek resettlement in the US. Well, to help us navigate the implications of this executive order and explore how South Africa might mitigate its negative impacts, we have Neil Diamond from the South African Chamber
Neil
of
Diamond,
Commerce
it's not
in the
a singer,
US,
guys.
joining us from Atlanta. Hi, Neil. Thanks for joining us on a Sunday evening of all times.
Hi, Linda, and hello to all your viewers.
Well, before we get into commercial implications of this, tell us, I heard you've been inundated by, calls from South Africa wanting to immigrate to the US.
Well, Linda, thank you very much for that question. In the first few hours after the news broke and it went live, we received thousands of emails, text messages, WhatsApps, Facebook Messenger messages, and to an extent that our system actually crashed. We couldn't deal with just the sheer volume that was coming through. What we have done is we've subsequently put a link on our website where people can register for information only. It's not to register for benefits or anything to become a refugee. It's just that we can share information. At this stage, we've had outreaches of over 17,000 South Africans expressing interest
Listen to that number.
in becoming refugees in the United States of America.
And are they all Afrikaans?
Well, to be honest with you, how do you test an Afrikaner? I've got an English name and an English surname, but I know if we start conversing in Afrikaans, you will hear that I'm a native speaker. I grew up Afrikaans, went to an Afrikaans primary school, high school. I'm a product of the Rand Afrikaans University. So, how are we fully going to define that? I don't know.
Okay, so technically, this guy is South African, but because he's white, he doesn't get covered under the South African laws, even though he spent his whole life there and he's actually an ambassador of the country to America. He's not considered South African. And yes, Daryl Cahoon, they have diamonds. 20 years ago, they were the only one in the world to have diamonds. Right now, though, they're one of 3 countries that has diamonds. So diamonds are no longer exclusive to South Africa. Actually, Canada has a diamond mine, and Canada has a platinum mine, also diminishing South Africa's use. They are pretty much, they've dug their hole, and within the next year, you're going to see what happens when a country digs a hole.
I don't know if they're all Afrikaans. Most of the emails I received were in English, and most of them were on behalf of their families. So up and above the number that I have mentioned, which is well over 17,500, we can time that by about 4 if we look at families and added family members. At this stage, we're estimating about 50,000 people reached out to us in the last 2 days.
50,000
warm bodies
people
that would like to move to the United States from South Africa. And that's shocking.
So that might actually be how many with their families?
Well, we're saying 50,000 with their families because we're talking about a figure of 17,500 that have reached out to us. But there's no way of quantifying this. Further to that, this is honestly hot off the press. This happened at 5 p.m. US time on the East Coast that we got this news, or that this news broke. This news broke in South Africa during the nighttime of Saturday morning. So we've got no further information other than the executive order. We don't know how it's going to be implemented.
So basically, here's the deal, folks. Okay, executive order signed on Friday here in America. Their government kicks in with their propaganda on Saturday. Here it is Monday, and there's already 17,500 phone calls to leave Africa, but yet the paperwork hasn't been done on the procedures on how to get them here, and they already want to leave. that is what I would consider an indicator of a racist government against those people, because they don't even know how they're going to get here. Our government hasn't even come up with policies, because it takes a couple days at least to come up with policies after an executive order of how to implement that executive order, probably a little longer than a couple days unless it's expedited. So there's not even a legal processes to get these people over here, even though we've offered them an olive branch, and they've already lined up a mile long to leave that country. I think that's hilarious as shit, and makes that president in South Africa and everyone who thinks South Africa's a GDP leader, they're fixing to lose about 60,000 people that actually are producers.
What are the scale and scope of that? How are we going to define Afrikaners? That is all information that we are still waiting for. As the South African Chamber of Commerce in the US, we have reached out to the US mission in South Africa. We wrote a letter to the Charge d'Affaires. As you know, the US ambassador to South Africa returned early January to inquire as to the process that would be followed to firstly get South Africans onto a list somewhere. And then secondly, what would be the criteria? How would they adjudicate that? What's the process that will be followed to resettle South Africans to the United States? So at this stage, there's not much that we can share. We know that the impact's going to be severe, and we know that the overwhelming number that have expressed interest will only grow in the coming weeks and days.
Some are actually upset and don't
There's
want to
the link
be,
if anyone wants to jump
say
on.
what we Afrikaners, we're staying, we don't want to be associated with that. And as you say, other people see it as an opportunity. So people view it differently.
Well, I think what we have pleaded with our South African brothers and sisters is to at least maintain decorum and respect for one another. Both you and I are South Africans that are no longer resident within South Africa. And we should not denounce those that have got desire to join us in other parts of the world. At the same time, we respect those that decide to stay because South Africa is an amazing country. It's the country of our birth. That is the country where we all would like to be. And we miss it every single day of our lives. Africa is us more than what we are still in Africa. But we want to at least allow those that have come to a juncture in which they've said, our futures and our strategic direction does not align with where South Africa is at this stage. And a very easy way to explain it. I wasn't born in Nelspruit. I love to say that I wasn't from Nelspruit, but I was definitely born to be in Nelspruit. I came to the US from Nelspruit, but I was born somewhere else in South Africa. But I got to a day where I decided, but I do not want to be in that community anymore. I don't align to what is in that community. And I decided to relocate to Nelspruit. There's many people that have moved out of Gauteng down to the Eastern Cape, Southern Cape, Western Cape, people that have moved down to KwaZulu-Natal, people that have moved up north. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you or that you've got a hatred for Gauteng because you're not just living somewhere else in the country. The same would apply for a South African that have decided that they do no longer want to live within the borders of the country. Being a South African is not a geographical space. You're a South African. I'm a South African. I may not necessarily be within the boundaries of the country. So I think in that regard, we don't need to cut one another to pieces on social media and within the public domain. We can just allow one another enough space, as we did back in 1994 when our country became a democracy. We opened the doors for everyone to say, this is a new country with new parameters, with new rules. South Africa is becoming a new nation of people living across the globe, both in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Great Britain, Europe, and America. So we'd like to just ask people to respect one another while we are moving through this transition. And we don't know how it's going to play out as yet, but we think that there's a lot of animosity happening, which is unnecessary.
Yep. So let's look.
All right, enough about that one. I got another one to show you here. This is the guy I told you about the other day. He's pretty damn. I don't agree with his perception of a couple. He's got a ground. He's on the ground. He knows what's going on. So his perception is skewed because of that. because he doesn't have a worldly view. He's grown up in Africa, just like most Americans have grown up in America. You've got a worldly view. You just heard that one gentleman from South Africa, the white guy, said, yeah, South Africa is a world thing now, because a lot of people have moved out of South Africa who are South African. They've got their perspective, more worldly perspective. Mine's more worldly perspective because I've lived in different countries in my life. Grew up in several, actually. But this guy's got a good perspective here.
Donald Trump is stopping the aid to African nations. So the United States of America is not going to send any more money, any more help to no begging African nation. You can do whatever you want. You can go underground. It's none of his business. But I think we need to listen to this man. His name is Uhuru Kenyatta from Kenya. Very interesting. Former president. Listen to this.
I saw some people the other day crying, oh, I don't know, Trump has removed money. He said he's not giving us any more money. Watu wanalia. Why are you crying? It's not your government, it's not your country. He has no reason to give you anything. I mean, you don't pay taxes in America. He is appealing to his people. Shauri yenu bwana. This is a wake-up call for you to say, okay, what are we going to do to help ourselves? Instead of crying, tujiulize, what are we going to do? Haya ametoa hiyo, sasa tutafanya namna gani jameni? What are we going to do? Yeah? To support ourselves. Because nobody is going to continue holding out a hand there to give you. It is time for us to use our resources for the right things. We are the ones who are using them for the wrong things.
100%.
That, brothers, that's crazy stuff. Okay. Number one, it's very, very hot here. Extremely hot. I had a choice between making a video naked or making no video. Okay, but you're going to comprehend that very much, and it's a good thing that I have a nice body. You need to go to the gym. But me, I was born like this. Okay. Thank you very much for stopping by. You are very much appreciated. My name is Zach. If it's your first time, you are welcome. We love you. This is family. Here we talk about Africa, every country right here. And we'll also give courses of geography. Like this is Gambia. This is Uganda. This is Nigeria. This is Somalia. This is Eritrea. Okay, you didn't know about that,
Oh,
right?
I know all about you.
Okay. No, don't justify yourself. Great. Okay, let's go. That was Uhuru Kenyatta, ex-president of Kenya, saying that Africans should stop crying over the decision of Donald Trump on how to use their money. It's their money. It's not yours. Stop crying. Stop acting like he's done something like crazy or racist. I mean, they can decide whatever they want to do with their money. I mean, think about it. Most African nations are sitting here waiting for aid coming from the United States of America. Isn't that crazy? And you don't even like America. You don't like America. Let's be honest. Trump says he's stopping for 3 months to check their policies, see who aligns with their international policies. And you're crying already. Well, you don't like America. Let me remind you how you don't like America. When you go to the United Nations and America wants you to vote against Russia, do you vote against Russia? No, you don't vote against Russia. When America says you must accept men that like other men so they can do the manly things, you don't want that. You say it's not part of your culture, but you want money from America. That's very clever. No, not with this president. He's not going to accept that. America say go to the right, you going to the left. Because you say you're free, you cannot be guided. Well, America say, I'm not going to give you nothing. I mean, let's think about it. You're paying school fees for a child who's not yours, right? And he goes to school. Sometimes he say he need new shoes, sometimes new T-shirt or whatever for gymnastics. You pay for it because you're a good person. Then the child is blatantly disrespectful. He said, you're not even my mother. Don't tell me what to do. What do? Do you continue buying those chocolates and stuff? Look at me thinking about food. No, you don't. You stop. Now, is Donald Trump wrong? Question mark. Now, the bottom line is we're talking about USAID. USAID or USAID is a program by the United States of America to help people across the world, to finance their health facilities, to finance economics, to finance many things. So it's beneficial for many African nations. True that. However, it's also beneficial for the United States of America because it keeps the US's influence all across the world. Now, do you want the US to influence your country? You probably don't. Well, then, do you want money from the USA? Well, you probably do. But then you need to choose. It's either the money from the United States or influence. You're either going to subdue to Donald Trump or you're going to say no to the money. You can't be a beggar and a proud beggar. I mean, come on. You should either be a beggar or a proud person. You need to make a choice. You're going to be a beggar or you're going to be a proud person. Julius Malema of South Africa has something interesting to say. Let's listen to him.
The EFF has noted the threat by the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, who has issued a threat to cut foreign aid to South Africa and impose sanctions on South Africa for adopting legislation that permits the expropriation of land without compensation and implementing policies that addresses historical race-based inequalities in our country. The statement by Donald Trump is offensive and undermines our sovereignty and is a reminder that our reliance on foreign aid and foreign direct investment surrenders us to the will of imperialists who use money to dictate.
Okay, first I got to give you guys a little disclaimer here. Zach, the guy on the right of the screen with the glasses on, the younger, better looking guy on the screen, not the old guy to the left. He's not South African. And in Africa, a lot of countries don't like South Africa. And Zach will throw jabs at South Africans because just he kind of sort of doesn't like them.
The economic and policy direction of Africa. We want to make it categorically clear to the President of the USA that we are going to expropriate land without compensation and pursue legislative measures to do so, and no threat will stop us. His misinterpretation of the Expropriation Act, which is a mild and cosmetic intervention, is an assessment of a measure that is going to be pursued through the amendment of our constitution as South Africans, and there is nothing he can do to undermine our independence.
Okay, that's very well said. Very, very interesting, Mr. Malema. However, South Africa still benefits about $400 million from the US. That's a lot of money. Okay, so it's very good to say, well, don't undermine us. True, he's 100% correct. Do not undermine the South Africans. But South Africa still profits from $400 million in many areas of the nation. Now, what are we going to do? Are we going to say no to Mr. Trump and no to his money? Let him shove it up his butt? Or are you going to say no, but send us the money? It's an interesting point. Fellas, I want you to understand, many African countries are still begging. You know, you beggars. This is what you are. Listen, in 2022, every African country received some form of US aid ranging from $125 million to $500 million. Every single African country. How many African countries are there? Come on, tell me. You don't know how many African countries are there? Come on. Okay, great. It's in the 50s, about 50 something. Imagine one country providing funds as high as $500 million to every African country. Then you want to go support Vladimir Putin? Come on, man. You need to make up your mind. This is crazy. Many countries.
Oh, by the way, gentle peoples, if you want to know why we have such a large deficit, well, you just heard him. We're giving money to 57 countries in Africa, and we have been for 30 years.
Countries are going to suffer. US aid is a program through which the United States of America serves the money to many African countries for aids, you know, for begging and stuff like that. Yeah. Now, Trump says you need to shut down US aids because these US aids are people that are corrupt. Basically, what they're saying is when they send you money, you don't use the money for the good things of the people. You know, these people in offices, they actually use the money for themselves. Yes. People who work for NGOs and stuff. Yes, in most of the cases, when they ask for money, for funding for a school, funding for water, funding for whatever project, they ask for more than what is actually needed on the ground. You know that? Yes, that's what they do. And when they get the money, they spend 90% on themselves. They buy big cars, big houses. They spend money on their family members. They get the third wife and the fourth wife and the fifth wife and the sixth wife.
Yeah. You seem talking about these wives. Africa is a lot different than America, people.
And if it's a woman that received the money, she says she doesn't need a man in her life. So Trump said this is absolutely rubbish. US aid has been stopped since Donald Trump entered the power. So the office is stopped. They have about 10,000 people working for US aid. They asked them to stay home, but they're still getting paid until when they decide to stop the program. Countries like Malawi is going to suffer directly. Malawi is counting about 5,000 jobs that are going to die if Trump decides to shut down US aid. 5,000 jobs from Malawi. Unbelievable. Malawi received a lot of money from foreign aid. They received money from Israel to send children to Israel, go work in the farm. I mean, the country is going through the most. That's why Africans need to come together. Why don't you ask Africans? I mean, if you have issues, you ask your brother. You don't go to the right. But do Africans have that? You know, can we help each other? Malawi is going through the most, my brother. I mean, 5,000 jobs are going to go. What are these people going to do? Are they going to go become refugees in South Africa, like a lot of Zimbabweans? I mean, I'm just asking, question mark. In 2024, many countries of Africa received money from the US. Nigeria received 622 million. Mozambique, 564 million. Tanzania, 560 million. Uganda, 559. Kenya, 512 million. Where does this money come from? They use it. Not necessarily for the project. In most cases, they spend it on themselves. People don't see this money. This is how government people and politicians and their cousins get rich and drive big cars. And you're like, oh, you get this Range Rover X limited model. Yeah, they get money for free from America. Trump said, enough. You people have had independence for 60 years. 60 years. You got gold, diamond, uranium, you name it. Everything is here. You look after yourself. Beggars. Here's Trump saying that there will not be corruption anymore. Listen.
USAID, run by radical lunatics, and we're getting them out, and then we'll make a decision.
This is Elon Musk talking.
If you've got an apple that's got a worm in it, maybe you can take the worm out. But if you've got actually just a ball of worms, it's hopeless. And USAID is a ball of worms. Mm-hmm. There is no apple. And when there is no apple, you've just got to basically get rid of the whole thing.
USAID is a bowl of worms. It's just worms. There's no apple. They must shut it down. USAID is the organization through which the funding comes from America. American taxpayers fund USAID. So it's money from American pockets that comes to your country and enriches you and builds sometimes some of your pipelines. Yes. So it is your responsibility to always vote for America. Whenever America wants blue, you must say blue because America feeds you. That's what it is, my brothers. Don't waste America's time. Either you want America to be on top and you take their money, or you stop taking American money. Stop wasting people. Listen to this lady.
USAID has long strayed from its mission to effectively and efficiently administer aid to advance American interests. USAID has become rotten to its core. For decades, while homeless veterans sleep on our streets, our communities rebuild from natural disasters, and American families struggle to get by, USAID has pillaged and plundered the American treasury, essentially lighting American taxpayer dollars on fire, funding some of the dumbest, stupidest, just dumbest initiatives imaginable.
Okay, so apparently USAID has been funding some of the, shows where a man that looks like a woman is to dress up like a woman. Then they're paying money for things like that. But in nature, they should be funding things that are imported for Americans. So Americans, many soldiers of America are in trouble. They have no money. They have no medicals. They're in the street, homeless. USAID should be helping them. It's not helping them, but it's funding project where, a man dressed like a woman is dancing. So these people say enough is enough. Now, my question is, are they right to claim back what belongs to them? Are Americans right to say, you know what, there's no need for us to be funding all these African countries because they don't vote for us anyway. There's no use for us sending them money because they don't like us. They just don't have the courage to say, we don't like you, we like Russia. Well, what are you going to do now? Are you going to turn your face toward Russia, hoping that Russia comes across? Does Russia have the funding to replace what America is giving to Africa? Big question mark. Are you going to look into China? China is in Africa. It's doing many things. But will China give you the money America is giving you right now as aid? Well, China doesn't give things for free. You know that. Sri Lanka took money from China and they couldn't pay it, a few $1 billion. And China took a port for 99 years, fellas. 99 years, the port will be Chinese. Nobody from Sri Lanka will going to be there. Are the Chinese?
Do you think Africans like Chinese? If this gentleman here is a YouTuber from Africa talking to Africans, telling them exactly what they're doing.
Going to do the same things in Africa. Well, they won't give you things for free. Are you going to kneel down and say, yes, we acknowledge that America's up there as long as we get the money? Or are you going to say, no, it's about time we actually find our own ways of living?
So what do you guys think? I just hopefully brought you guys some enlightening stuff about other perspectives, not American perspectives, on what's happening in South Africa. And hopefully brought you some stuff that's the charts have been lying about GDP of South Africa, because they just cut their own throat and their GDP is fixing to drop below the floor. And a new leader of South Africa for GDP is going to come along, and it's going to be the Sahel nations. Like I've been telling you for about 2 years, economic opportunity. You got to shift in advance if you want to be a Warren Buffett. Yeah, there's a lot to be said on the intricacies of that money. Trust me, just like their African government steals a lot of the money, our guys actually steal it before we send it to them. So it's just an explosion of corruption on both ends is what's occurring right now. I'm just showing the African side and how they're seeing our explosion of corruption being handled and how it's affecting them. It's just another perspective that I'm bringing. There's a lot. It's not simple at all. That's why it's only a 3-month stop also to reorganize and see where the money's going and trying to end. Will they end it all? No, hell no. There's always going to be corruption. But right now, 95% of it's corruption. So if they end it for 3 months, reorganize it, and then reinitiate it, the number will probably be a lot lower because hopefully the African countries, for which that gentleman, Zach, is part of the African countries, he's an influencer down there. Hopefully they'll get up and start doing their own thing, which they should have done 40 years ago, but their leaders are too corrupt to have allowed that to happen. And he also pointed that out, that they are getting 4th wives, 5th wives, 6th wives. They've got to have houses for all these wives. Where are all these politicians in Africa getting that money? USA. Yeah. So it's corruption around the block. Oh yeah, it's a directional thing, all-nighter. Hey, what's up, 3D Wood? Yeah, most definitely. And USAID shouldn't be a part of that because we have enough here to give to everybody. We just need to square our shit away, get rid of the corruption, get rid of the fraud, and find out. Basically, we just need to clean house and check our books. Because for about 50, well, since the fiat, oh my God, this is amazing. Since they introduced the fiat dollar, for which we all know is a fake dollar, well, ever since then, most of the books have been faked also. As time has gone on, they've gotten more brazen with faking the numbers. So yeah, it's been a 50-year corruption deception, a psychological tool of domestic control for sure. I mean, it's to me, it's blatantly obvious that that's what the whole, not only the tax, but the fiat dollar has been along with the tax. So another thing to look at here is the change that's coming. These countries, South Africa's fixing to get a big change, a lot of other countries, and so are we. And it's going to be an economic change as well. There's a lot of things fixing change, and possibly a reset of gold price, which also charts don't say. So it's always good to own assets that historically are valuable, gold, silver, platinum, and then go into investing, because under a reset of a gold price, I'm not sure what chart will show you in advance what to own if that happens to happen. And they say, okay, well, gold's no longer 3,000, it's 60,000. Well, how the hell is that going to affect everything? And where do you position yourself for that? Do you look at the charts? Because they're not going to tell you. And that's why I don't like charts. They've got their tool. That's all. It's not the school. It's a tool in the school. And that's all charts are. And they're a past tense look, past indicators of past things, not future. You look future, you have to add geopolitical, what's going on right now. Like that second video I showed you with the gentleman who's in America, but he's South African, got 17,500 phone calls over the weekend for people who want to immigrate over here or be refugees over here or get sanctions to get over here. But yeah, there's no policy. Things are changing. Everything's changing. And if you've been subscribed to me for long enough, you'll know that I've said this, about 2 years. The new charts are going to be based off of treaties and trade agreements and treaties. And I said that about 2 years ago. I've said it several times since then. And well, that's what's happening. So share this out, and so that way other people might be able to get the truth a year or two before things happen. Although I know most people don't like getting information that early, because it gives you too much time to position and get in a good spot. And there's so many other things going on that'll distract you and keep you poor. But that's how Warren Buffett does. He does it a couple years in advance. And if you want to know where all the criminals are going that won't be repatriated to their countries from the ICE deportations, well, hell, look at Cuba. See what they've been doing at Gitmo. I've known about this for about a year. They've already, they got rid of all the terrorists. They gave them away. We already released them back into the public. And they've reorganized Gitmo to hold about 10 times more people as it had. And wow. I mean, just check out Gitmo. See what they've been doing for the past year. I know no one's talked to you about that, but I've also kept my eye on that. But anyhow, I just wanted to bring you this stream. And since there's only about 2 people here, thank you, Jay, for joining. A little bit late because I'm ending. You guys have a nice night. Trying to end, hit the end button twice. It still hasn't worked. Still hasn't worked. 3rd time hitting it. See you guys later. I'm still trying to hit the end stream and it's not end streaming for me. This is fucked up. They're going to eat up all my damn hours. I'm trying to end stream. I just refreshed and it still won't let me end stream. Oh, this sucks. How do you end stream if you hit the end stream button and it won't let you it won't let you leave? Huh. I'm trying to end the stream, guys. It's not letting me end the stream. This sucks. Well, you guys leave. It's a dead stream. I refreshed again.